Hello, Kathleen. This is Dr. Massey, and I wanted to try and explain this um, guidelines and rubric for the milestone 2 and see if we can get this all figured out. So I downloaded some software, and hopefully talking you through this will help. Please let me know because I'm excited about this software, and it might be something I can use in the future as well. So here we are, and the milestone 2 scenario you've already responded to. There is overlap between the week 3 discussion and the week 3 assignment. The purpose of that overlap is that in the week 3 discussion you submit your draft communications for this week 3 assignment, and you get feedback from me and from your classmates, and you incorporate that feedback into your draft communications, and you include them into this assignment, which is assignment 3. So we know the scenario here. An overseas contractor that is a major supplier to your chosen company has recently been revealed as one that operates with poor working conditions for employees, uses child labor, pays low wages, requires long hours, no benefits, etc. So in Module 3, you will submit the conditions communication strategy, and that's what this is. It's important to remember that term, conditions communication strategy, because you will also include this as part of your final project. For the communication strategy, select either informational, educational, or persuasive strategies, or a combination of those. You must, of course, tailor your messages and the strategy you use to the audiences that you have targeted. There are some examples of informational, educational, and persuasive, and you can review those. For the assignment, the following critical elements must be addressed. The communication context. This is the scenario elaborated with your company, McDonald's, in mind. So you've already done this, again, in the draft communications. You've identified that you've got a supplier in a foreign country, for example, that was engaging in child labor, and you've severed ties with them, or whatever you have done in your creation and elaboration of the scenario, plus your company. That is the communication context. Describe that. Communication need. Why is this important? Well, McDonald's, we're a transparent company. We want everyone to know what's going on. Plus, these days, of course, you figure people are going to find out about this through the media. So you want to be in front of it and let people know that you're investigating this, or you did investigate this, and you did or you will take action, and that's the communication need. Now we get to the internal communication, and that's the type and the purpose of the internal communication. So how are you communicating with them? Is it an email? And is it informational, persuasive, educational, or a combination thereof? You identify the target audiences, because remember, we're tailoring our messages to our audiences. So internally, most likely it's employees, but maybe it's shareholders. Maybe it's to managers. Maybe you're sending this out to managers of all stores of McDonald's around the world. Develop the draft communication internally. Now that has already been done. That is what you submitted in the week 3 discussion. External communication, the same requirements, the type and purpose. So in the external communication, maybe we create a news release, and it's going to the general population then. And we may be using informational, educational, or persuasive in our approach to the purpose. Identify the target audience. It is the general population, for example, and we develop a draft communication. You've already done that in the week 3 discussion. Conditions communication strategy. Summarize the communication strategy that you used. Why was it the best approach, and provide justification for your efforts. So here is the rubric. Guidelines for submission, double-spaced Word document, 12-point Times New Roman font, 1-inch margins, APA format, page length requirements 3 to 5 pages, not including the title page and references. What that means is, of course, is that the title page doesn't count in the page length requirement. So if you've got the title page and then you've got a reference page as your first and your last pages, those don't count toward the page count, of course. Now, I posted an announcement about using appendices, and if you haven't taken a look at that, please do. And I've provided an example from a student who effectively used appendices for one of her assignments last semester, and it was formatted properly in APA. And I mention that because it is difficult to sometimes stay within those page length requirements. You've got all this work to do. The communication context, the communication need, the type and purpose of the internal communication and external communication, the target audience for the internal and the external communication, and to include the draft communication for both the internal and external audiences, it can be more room than you have. It may take more room than you have. So include those draft communications always as appendices. See the example that I posted in the classroom in that announcement on appendices for a really good example of how to do that. So we've got the communication context, the communication need. We've already gone through those when we discussed the critical elements. That's what these are, as you see in this top heading right there. So we've got communication context, that's the scenario plus your company, what you described basically in the draft communications. Communication need, why is this necessary? We talked about that. Internal type and purpose, we talked about that. Internal target audience, who are they? Internal draft communication, you've already created those. External, we've got the same requirements. External type and purpose, is it a news release? Is it persuasive? External target audience, is it the general public? Is it some other group, some specific group that you're targeting? External draft communication, you've already created that in the week 3 discussion. Communication strategy, a clear summary of the communication strategy that is supported with adequate evidence to support and justify the approach that was adopted. Articulation of response is always included in a rubric, and that has to do with the APA style and where there are grammatical or spelling errors. How does the paper look? So I hope that helps. Please let me know if not, and let me know what you thought of this technology, the software. I'm hoping that it will help to solve these problems that I know they're too difficult sometimes to try to figure out in just a text-based like email exchange. And sometimes it's, I think, better if we can see some visual stuff and hear somebody talking. So hopefully this did all that. Thank you.